Welcome back to Adventure Pete. Glad to see you here. What we're going to talk about today is scan tools on these new 2024 Chevrolet 2500HDs. So if this is your first time here, make sure you like the video, comment, tell us what you think, tell us what you want to hear about, and subscribe. We got a lot of great content coming, a lot of great content on the channel, so be sure to check it out. So this wasn't originally a topic that I intended on discussing because it's usually pretty straightforward, but I ran into an interesting problem or dilemma, I guess you want to call it. So it all started was, how do you adjust the tire size on these new trucks? And there's not any controllers out there. Nobody's out developed any programming or things like that to actually work with these new 24 trucks. All the numbers all stop at 23. Ideally, it's still the same engine, same drivetrain. They just put a new transmission in there. Not a big change, but it's just a little change. And so like, okay, in the past, I've simply just taken my SnapOn scan tool, this high-end scan tool that everybody in the big shops all use, and I keep up to date. And I can usually just hook that right up, and in one of the sub-menus, you can simply just adjust the tire size in a GM vehicle. That's just how they've always done it. It's just always been in the sub-program. It was always a very neat feature to have, as long as it's within, you know, a realm of tire size. You're not going from 32s to 44s. You know, if you're going to 32s and 33s in that area, you got the tire sizes pre-programmed in there. You can just adjust and go. There's no programmers out there on the market yet, so that makes it odd. I was like, huh, that's interesting. So I just like, let's scan the truck, see what we can get into, see what we can access. And what I found was something interesting. Now I am updated to 24-2, so the second quarter of 24. And if you're not used to SnapOn and any other high-end scan tools, is every quarter of every year they release more programming and more access to different manufacturers and things like that, because a manufacturer just doesn't give you access to a vehicle. They limit access throughout the times and things like that. And then you get to dig into gateways and other things like that. Like Chrysler is a major proponent for gateways. So not only do I spend $5,000 on a scan tool, plus $1,000 a year to keep it updated, to be able to read the new generations of codes, I also need to pay an extra fee to register my scan tool with Fiat Chrysler to be able to get access to their codes and actually be able to clear codes out of a Chrysler product. Just the generic scan and clear codes. Not doing anything. I'm just doing basic general maintenance kind of things. So if you're into the newer vehicle things, it's becoming more and more of a thing. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. Do it for my job. It's not a big deal. It's just frustrating to pay that out of my pocket to make sure it can do my job. But nonetheless, that is how it is. And when I pull up on the truck and other vehicles, things like that, you get all the modules, things like that. Even if you can't access it, you can still see it. It's just there. You just can't do anything with it. And I got code scan and code clear, and then like tire specs and oil specs. That's it. I had no access to diagnostics at all. This scan tool gave me no access to nothing. And previously, in previous generations, even if I wasn't super up to date to the exact quarter, I could still see all these different lines and have all this access to information. I could still see it. I could still run data. I can still see like engine RPMs, coolant temperature, things like that. Now, when I ran a code scan, it showed all the modules. It showed all previous history codes and things like that in the truck. I could still clear them out. I couldn't clear the ABS codes. It has me locked out of that system still, which is, I can understand that because it's a new vehicle. GM hasn't released the access to that module yet. Okay, I can understand that, but it sees the modules because they all show up underneath the code scan, but I can't get access to it as a sub menu. And our SnapOn dealer and all their wisdom is like, that's kind of odd. Maybe the 2025 quarter you'll start seeing access to it. It's like, oh, so this brand new truck I have, this $5,000 scan tool is a brick. It has no value. I can do nothing with it but read and clear codes, and that's it. So if I actually had to do any diagnostics, this thing's got to go to the dealership because they're the only ones that have access to those codes with their Tech 2 scanners. Being a GM employee, they can get access to all the modules and things like that, but I cannot. Which is weird because I've had a scan tool that was 3, 4 years out of date, being able to still read new vehicles in different manufacturers before this. I just couldn't do much with it. I could just at least still see it. I could see modules and things like that. I've never seen this much limited access in an engine computer system before. So it's odd. So if you ever wanted to use your scan tool that you already have on a brand new 2024, you're going to hopefully have bought it in 2024, because anything that was bought in 23 and earlier, it's not going to see it at all. And I took a scan tool from a 23 version that wasn't updated for this year, and I had no access to anything, because I just wanted to make sure my tool wasn't the problem. I wanted to compare and verify my results, and a 23 version, none, no access. Couldn't even do a code scan, registered nothing, gave me no access to anything. So your pocket handheld scan tools may not even work with these trucks anymore. So I'm curious how that's going to roll out as the years to come, and if we're going to start seeing more access, or if GM is kind of going the route of like John Deere, and you're just locked out of the system altogether. Because if anybody knows anything about the John Deere and the Right to Repair Act, stuff like that, if you're working on like electronics, John Deere has you locked out of it. You're not allowed to work on any of it. And that's where that kind of falls into play, because if you buy it, you should have the right to be able to access and repair it. John Deere says you don't, and that's where it kind of gets sticky with the laws. So that's just some interesting food for thought as well. But I really wanted to make this video to inform that unless you're working for the dealership, you might not have as much access to these engines for troubleshooting and work on them yourself right now at all. I mean, I'm hoping I will get more access as time comes. I've seen different updates and things like that, like Ford. It took them like 6 or 7 years to get grant access to some ABS modules in some Super Duty trucks. So I'm curious. I've never seen the lack of diagnostics. I can understand if I can't clear the codes, because they haven't given me access to do that. Because like ABS, that's kind of a big thing. You just don't want people scanning and clearing codes on the willy-nilly. But I can't even see the module to run actual diagnostics and test things. If I do a generic scan, yeah, I can see that there is a module. If there was a code related, it would be there. But it's not giving me anything. I mean, my code scan showed my ABS module on this truck that I had the initial trailer brake control module, the recall that had done. It showed there was a fault in it when they had disconnected and plugged a new one in. I can see that under the code scan, but it never would let me clear it. So that was an odd thing that I've noticed. So, yeah. So right now I'm locked out of the system, so I'm hoping for the 2025 updates that I'll be able to get more. I will keep you guys updated and informed on what I'm actually able to access. So hopefully you can like the video, comment, tell us what you think, tell us what you want to hear about, tell us if you actually have access and how you do have access, if you do, what scan tools you're running, or if you work for GM, and see if that's a thing, because it's odd. I mean, I've heard of weird stuff like this, but I've never been this limited before. And as always, subscribe. We got a lot of great content coming, a lot of great content on the channel, so be sure to check it out. And remember to have a great adventure.